What's up, guys? It is JZNES back again with another video. Today we're talking Dragon Quest IV, expounding upon the lore in times of yore, with Dragon Quest IV. I don't know. There you go. I didn't even come up with one this time. We're talking Dragon Quest IV, Chapters of the Chosen. Now they start having names, because these were on DS or whatever. They all have names now, but I just haven't mentioned it up until now because I've just been playing like older versions of each of the games. But of course there was Dragon Warrior 4 here on the NES. I got this one for $35 there, as you can see. So that was a really good deal on that. So Dragon Quest 4, Dragon Warrior 4. We're just reviewing Dragon Quest 4, really. Never got a handheld remake like the other two, or I'm sorry, the other three, until this guy here on the DS in 2007. And this was one of those Dragon Quest games that we had the NES version, but I mean, if you didn't play the NES version, there wasn't really a lot of ways to play this game. There's supposed to be, I should have brought out the little thing there. There's an advertisement in the Dragon Quest 7, like on the back or in the manual or something, like coming soon, Dragon Quest IV for PS1, a game that never came out here. I don't even know if it ever came out in Japan. I assume it probably did come out in Japan. There was also a Dragon Quest V on PS2 there, which was advertised in a very similar way. And I remember back in the day trying to find that and then not being able to because it was Japanese mostly. Still be cool to get my hands on that, of the PS2 version there. Anyway, so we're talking about Dragon Quest IV here. Chapters of the Chosen. Now why it's called that is because at the beginning of the game you start off and you're kind of introduced to each of the characters in sort of chapters. So your first one is Rangar? I don't remember how you pronounce his name, but McRyan. He's Ragnar, that's it, McRyan, who he's kind of like a warrior sort of character. I have the guide as well. I bought this back in the day when I bought the game. I did buy this near when it came out because I was a big Dragon Quest fan back then. I also bought the 5th game and the 6th game around the times when they came out, which was later on. The 6th game especially was way later on. I remember when that came out even too. I don't remember really much about when the other games came out, but I bought them because they're, you know. So Ragnar McRyan there. This time around you don't get to really create your party. There are more established characters in the world, so they each have their own little story. Like Ragnar's story here is he has to rescue a bunch of kids from this tower, and it's just like kind of a basic introduction to the game and how the gameplay. You get this little slime, the Cure Slime Healy, and he shows up in later games like the Heroes and all of that. So he's kind of iconic as well, Healy there. So, but he's not controllable. And basically, for the first part of that, it's just like the first game where you have just one character, and so it's a very good way to introduce you to the mechanics and whatnot of that game. And then, much like in Dragon Quest II, you get a party of 3. You get Elena, who's also a fighter type character. She never really learns any magic, but she's really cool. I talked about her in my Dragon Quest Heroes review, a favorite from that game. She's pretty cool. I had her in my party for most of the game as just like my beater. But she's joined by 2 other characters. Boral here, or Boria. He's kind of a spellcaster. Each of the like different spellcasters has like a unique move to them that you kind of need to use or want to use. Like for instance, Boria's one is Sap, which is very helpful against bosses and whatnot. And Oomph he has, which is also very helpful. Kind of slept upon in my playthrough. I didn't really switch out much. There's a mechanic where you can kind of, in some battles, and especially in the final battle, which I'll get to in a second here, you could switch out your party members. But I didn't really use Boria that much. I kind of just went with a basic party. I didn't switch out much, just basically because of like equipment and whatnot. I was afraid that they'd be underutilized and underleveled, or like difference in power levels, but it actually ended up being just fine, especially on the final boss there, for the most part. I mean, I had Borya in the party on the final boss, so I could use Sap. I would switch out for him, and he worked just fine. I mean, he didn't die that easily. It was good, you know, it was good stuff. So I don't know if I should have really been worried about that throughout the game, but, you know, it happens, whatever. I didn't play it fully to its, you know, to its full extent. Anybody surprised about that? And then we have Kirkl, who's also, I mentioned in the Dragon Quest Heroes review there. Really good character. He's kind of like a paladin sort, where he's like a decent attacker. He's not very good at attacking, but he's alright. He has Kabuff as kind of his main thing, and then he has all the healing spells, along with, he's one of the only ones that learns Kazing, and also multi-heal, which is really helpful. So he's a really good character. I would definitely recommend having him on the team, or at least switching out for him often, because Kabuff is really good, and then multi-heal and Kazing are like really essential in the final battle especially. And he can equip a lot of the good stuff. Like, one of the problems with Elena is that she can't equip very much, but Ragnar can equip most of the best weapons, but Elena's got like a very short list of weapons she can equip. She is kind of, she's like the fighter sort of character, really, because each of these characters is kind of like one of the classes from the previous game. So Ragnar is more like the warrior, Elena's a lot like the fighter character, Borya is a lot like a mage character, and so on and so forth. So Kirkl would be the cleric character. Then we have a fan favorite, Torneko Taloon there, who he shows up as cameos in a lot of other games, and even got his own spin-off series based off of like the dungeon crawler adventure that you do in his section of the game, where you just kind of go in there. It's a mystery dungeon style. That's kind of what invented that whole thing, I'm pretty sure, is this game and Torneko and whatnot, which is cool because it's not like you're just playing these different sections and they're all just like the same thing. They all have a kind of a different feel to them, which is nice. So Torneko's section, you actually kind of live out his life and have to run your store and run a different guy's store. So there's a lot of different like little things there with Torneko that you can, that's very different from the other stuff. It's more story focused and whatnot. I don't really consider him like one of the better characters in terms of like on the team. He has literally nothing to contribute basically, but he is like the dealer class. I think the dealer class was kind of undersold in this game, being Torneko, but in the previous game apparently it's really good. I would assume a lot of the same things from the previous game with the dealer class to get more gold and that kind of thing would apply to Torneko, and that would be the benefit of having him in your party, but I never really used him that much. The one time I used him outside of his chapter on the final battle, he died pretty much instantly, so yeah, there's that. Then you have a section where you follow these two sisters, Maya, who is the, I can never keep them straight. She's the spellcaster one, so she's more like a mage character. So she has all the great spells, you know, Sizz and Bang and Boom, and she has this move Puff, which is funny because when I was on the final boss, I got literally to, like, everyone was killed from my first party, and then it went to the secondary party, which were like, they weren't going to survive. So I just kept attacking, and then she was the final one, and I just kept using the Puff move to turn her into a dragon, and then eventually, like, as soon as I was going to die, I had one turn left. Seriously, like, I would have died in one more hit. The last one that I did, the last Puff, like, killed him, and I was just like, holy shit, like, whew, I got lucky there. So I didn't really use Maya that much, but she is a pretty good character. I went for more of a healer kind of build, because it's just how I am. That's what I like to do. So I went more with Mina here, who's Maya's sister. She has a lot of the great healing abilities, such as, well, see, the thing about Mina is that, like, she learns all the same stuff as Kirkl, but Kirkl learns multi-heal and cuzzing, and she doesn't learn that, which is a bunch of bullshit. She does learn Kerplunk, which sacrifices her to revive everyone else. Actually, that would have been pretty helpful. I don't think I got that, though, because I think I was like one level under that, actually. So that's kind of funny. But anyway, so yeah, I used her for most of the game. Yeah, she's pretty good. She's not too bad at all, and a really decent healer. And then you can see here some of the companions you get along the way, and like the first chapters, like I said, Healy over here. There's a lot of non-playable characters in this game that you need for certain moments of the game that you don't control, but they're pretty good companions, and they're more for the story, because this game is more grand on the story. There wasn't a lot of story in the previous games, but this one is very much more big on its narrative. Apparently, we got kind of a butchered version of the remake here, because they did remake this for Super Nintendo, I believe, back in the day, and then the Super Famicom, that is, not the Super Nintendo. We never got that, but when we got this remake, and when we got the Dragon Quest V remake, they added in the Dragon Quest V remake all this dialogue. You could talk to your party kind of at any time, a lot like the later Dragon Quest games, like Dragon Quest 8 and 10, or sorry, 11 there, where you can just kind of get your party's input on what's going on. So it makes more of an impact and a connection to the characters and whatnot. As is the characters and the story. It's good, but you like definitely can probably you feel that kind of gap of like these are good characters for like an NES game, and maybe for a little bit beyond that for a retro video game. These are good characters. It's no Final Fantasy VI or anything, but you know it's pretty decent. They're all likable and charming characters. You know, there's some good moments with the characters and good stories, backstories to the characters, which the previous games didn't have like any of. So that's really cool. So that's nice. So another cool thing about going through these chapters at the beginning there, it does feel a little much, and it does start to weigh on the early game to be going through all these chapters. Not that they're not good, but it's just such an odd way to start an RPG. You don't typically do this where you are so segmented with different characters and are exploring little bits of the world at a time, which I think is a really cool concept, because when you do finally get to the chapter where you're the hero and you can go out and you collect these characters that you've been learning and growing with the whole time, and you get them at the levels that you left them at, which they kind of level you up a little bit to like maybe balance it out so you'd be like the right levels for when you obtain them later on, kind of thing. So that's cool. But they come with all the equipment and all of the items and the experience that and the moves and stuff that they had previously. So that's really neat. They you don't get any of their gold, so you want to spend that before the end of the chapter. But for instance, there's like a really good item for Elena that you can get at the casino, and the casino tokens are a lot cheaper in her chapter. So if you really want to grind that out and do the casino stuff, or like bet on the monster arena or that kind of stuff, that's a thing that I don't know if I talked about in the Dragon Quest 3 video. I don't really remember talking about that, but you could like bet on these monster battles and gain coins from that. And here you gain casino coins. You can play slots and stuff, which games have gotten away from now because it's like simulated gambling or whatever. Like it's really dumb, but who cares, you know? But like I'm never that invested in like the casino stuff in these Dragon Quest games anyway. I do it sometimes in Dragon Quest 8 because like you have to do it in Dragon Quest 11 too, which whatever. But like Dragon Quest VIII, some of the better items are hidden away behind the casino stuff. That's how it always is in these Dragon Quest games. So that would be the only reason I would ever have done it, really, was for that. But anyway, so the idea is that you can get one of these items that'll be like a really good, it's like a dress item, it's a really good armor for Elena for like most of the game, and you can get it very early on and a lot cheaper than you would be able to get it later on because the casino tokens cost less and et cetera, et cetera. So you can sit there and do that, and then you'll have that item for later. It's cool stuff like that. So yeah, but it does kind of slow down the beginning of this game. But once you get to the main quest, it kind of feels like really cool because you've explored these little areas of the world, and then once you can see the full world like map in a sense, you kind of get a scale for what the world is like. You're like, oh yeah, I've explored this area and this area and this area, and so you're kind of familiar with pieces of the world, and then it all kind of connects. It's kind of that Mega Man Legends, the big dungeon mentality, you know, that's kind of what this is here, and I think that's a really cool way to go about making this game feel connected. Now, they did do stuff like that in Dragon Quest III, but this is a much more unique way of going about it because you explored them as different characters in different little side stories, not side stories, but different little stories leading up to the main story. And so you kind of learn everyone's motivations and their character and what they're kind of like. And you get to experience their either beginnings or quests that they went on, and then you'll hear about them in the other quests past that. So like they're for a long time after you do the Torneco section, you keep hearing about how he's traveling the world and becoming this big dealer or whatever. It's just really cool, you know. And a lot of the little enemies you fight at the bosses you fight at the end of the sections are like minions of Sorrow, who's the final boss of the game. And so it kind of feels like you're getting somewhere with that, you know. You're actually progressing towards finding him rather than it just like not being connected at all. Which was kind of my problem with Dragon Quest IX, is that nothing really felt connected. There was a lot of little stories, but they didn't really feel connected. Here, everything kind of feels connected, and the story kind of works together. It's not anything grand or epically narrative, and there's not like the characters aren't super in depth, but they're very good for what they are, you know. And I think this is the framework for the prototypical Dragon Quest game going forward. Before this, it was a lot more about the world and the settings and the gameplay. And this game is about the gameplay and the world and the setting too. But there's another element that they've really beefed up, is the characters and the story and whatnot. That's why I'm going on about it so long, is that it's significant to the overall game and the evolution of the series as a whole. This is this emphasis on story and the humorous aspects and the fun and just like the personality of what this game has become would kind of carry on into the rest of the series, the fifth game and not really the sixth game. I mean, they just went back on it there, but you know, the seventh and eighth game, and of course the 11th game. This kind of established the feel of a Dragon Quest game, so it very much is a very influential Dragon Quest title for that fact there. Now, you know, Dragon Quest V would go on to perfect, or at least very much improve upon this, and really make a grand characters and story and a world that really feels like a big deal. But they did a really good job at starting that here. And the fact that this is all on an NES game, too. Not all of it is on the NES game, but a good majority of this is on this NES game. I've like seen gameplay footage of the NES game. You do this, the chapters with Ragnar and all that. I just think that's really, like, impressive. Like, I'll be really interested to play the NES version of this at some point, because I just want to see how they did this. And it's always kind of, it kind of sucks that we didn't get like a Game Boy Advance or a Game Boy Color port of this game. And I'm glad that they waited till the DS to kind of do it, because the DS is like, it really, the backgrounds and the graphics and the world, it just all looks so good. And I'm glad we have this like DS, I guess quadrilogy here, if you want to count 9 or whatnot. But yeah, so the game just looks really nice, and it looks really colorful and vibrant, and it still maintains that like sort of 16-bit aesthetic, while having some like Mode 7 effects and whatnot. So, you know, it definitely feels very Super Nintendo, and I definitely appreciate that. But in a sense, it feels more like a 32-bit sort of game. You know, they really, it just looks really good, and all the enemies look really nice and well designed, and they're all just like very much the models that they would be using in the later games. Finally, the King Slime makes an appearance, and the Liquid King Slime, Liquid Metal King Slime, that is, makes an appearance there. So yeah, so that's cool. So we get a lot of aspects like that. You know, we get a lot of little things that would progress towards the later parts of the series. This is the start to the Zenithian trilogy. I don't really remember what 6 has to do with that, but it does play all the Zenithian items play a role. It's kind of like the Lodo stuff, where it's like there's a sword and a helm and all sorts of stuff like that. But the Zenithian stuff does play a bigger role in Dragon Quest V there, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, so. But yeah, so you do all that, and then you get to the main quest, which the first sort of little bit of the main quest there, the first few parts of the main quest is kind of finding all of the characters that were from before, and you exploring a few new areas and a few old areas. You do go back to some older areas, and you get to see them in a new way, or you find new parts to dungeons, or etc, etc. So there's a lot of cool stuff there, and it's kind of neat to see how it all connects and see how you meet those new characters. There's sections actually like this dungeon here, which ends up in Dragon Quest XI in the whatever that town is called, with the little, you know, alien-looking dudes or whatever. Where you get to go back to all the things. I specifically remember that dungeon because that was something we did in that game. So yeah, that's really cool. Let's see, what else? So, yeah, I don't know. I really like the dungeons. They definitely feel a lot more in-depth this time, and there's a lot of like little ways that they can make it better. There's also an aspect in this game, and I don't know if this was in the original game there. It'll be interesting to see how that works, where you can kind of shift the camera with the L and R buttons there to rotate the camera around, so you can find like hidden doors and paths and stuff. So that's really cool. Also, I played it on the 3DS XL, which is a great system to play this on. I really loved that. Yeah. So, Um, but yeah, it's also a pretty short game. You know, it's about 30 hours. I think I spent like maybe 25 hours on there, and I didn't really do too much grinding. I only did the minimal kind of killing all the enemies along the way sort of thing, which was fair enough. You know, it worked out well enough for me, and it kept the game at a reasonable challenge there. So that's pretty cool. But yeah, I found the gameplay to be improved. The same formula, but you know, they always make little tweaks and stuff to make the gameplay a little bit better each time. And the interesting thing is, like, with the whole wagon and the party system, is that it would have made for a more interesting game had I switched out my characters a lot more and kind of experimented with different party sets. And like I said, you get into that on the final boss there, where you can kind of switch in your characters at will, and it makes for a really good final boss there, because you can strategically think, hey, I should switch in Boria right now to use the sap move, and then I can switch back in Kirkl so I can buff my party, or you know, Boria can oomph and then, you know, switch in Kirkl because he knows the Kazing. Also the Sage Stone you get in the final dungeon there is just as helpful as it is in Dragon Quest 3. I think in Dragon Quest 3 it is a lot more helpful, honestly, but it's definitely pretty helpful in this game too. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, but there's just a lot of standard, like, Dragon Quest sort of stuff here, but they just kind of take it to the next level. So that's nice. There's a lot of little side quest stuff too. There's like sort of a like the town from Dragon Quest 3 kind of thing, where you can help this guy build this town through like this little side quest thing. And I never really did much of that. You can kind of do the mini medals. That's another thing. They have mini medals in this game, and they're basically on the path, but they're like just off the path to where you have to really kind of explore. And I like that. That they're not like so hidden that you'd have to go like just totally out of your way, but like they're well enough integrated into the game to where I, as long as I looked around a bit, I would find them, and that's cool. So yeah, and there's a lot of post-game content. I know there's like another dungeon and stuff after the game. I think you have to like get all the monsters again to like make that happen. They give you an item called the Big Book of Monsters, and I didn't bother with any of that. You know, I will probably do that one day if I ever go back and play these games again. Which I probably will do at some point, but you know, I keep saying that every time. I'm like, oh, when I go back next time, I'll do the post-game dungeons or whatever, and then I never do. But yeah. So there's like, wow, there's 69 nice mini medals in the game. It's such a random number, 69. But so that's pretty cool. You can get that to happen there. Apparently, oh wow. So yeah, I guess if you do the town, you get a lot of cool items from that. So that's probably worth doing, honestly. Yeah, that's neat. And they have like all the weapons and stuff here. Yeah, so right. So yeah, I don't know. It's just cool. There's a lot of cool extra stuff there. I know definitely the other games have extra stuff too, and then but yeah, gameplay still solid as ever. Very good RPG stuff. It's just, you know, it's Dragon Quest. You fight the monsters, you do that. It's really about the party composition. I think that's but it's still fun. You know, I like playing Dragon Quest because it's, you know what you're gonna get, and it's still a good time fighting all the monsters. It's still challenging enough. It's not like too easy or something. Like, I don't think any of the Dragon Quest games are probably too easy. And there's definitely some hard ones like 7 and 6 and whatever. So, but this is the right balance of difficulty, and given that certain characters only learn certain moves, that's how you gotta really decide who you want in your party and what's most important to you. And I think that's a good aspect, and that would make for good replay value in the future. But I'm kind of the guy. I don't remember who I had in my party last time, but like, I like to keep a lot of the same party members in my party whenever I like replay RPGs. I don't know, that's just me though. But sometimes I switch it up though, you know, but I just do what's comfortable for me. But, well, yeah, you know, like Dragon Quest 8, I didn't really switch over to the new characters when I played the 3DS like remake or whatever, so, you know, whatever. Like, I don't know. I'm just comfortable with the main cast there. But yeah. So it's a really good Dragon Quest game, and I like it because it's it takes a lot of the elements of the previous games and just keeps expanding upon them and making them better and more enjoyable, and just beefing them up to be even better, you know. And the characters are pretty iconic, you know. You have Elena and like it's Torneko is a real fan favorite, and the sisters there. Most of those characters appear in the first Dragon Quest Heroes game there, which is pretty cool. And the designs of these characters, like Ragnar, he kind of looks like a lot of the warriors later on, or maybe it's like these earlier games, but there's always a design that kind of looks like him. It's like a warrior. He looks like the typical warrior. So I just like how they kind of like took the same designs and modified them a bit to look like, you know, these characters, and then these characters kind of became iconic. So that's cool. And I like how there's a lot of still the Dragon Quest staples to the game, but they add a lot of the new stuff, like the World Tree gets introduced here. I don't think that was in any of the other games prior that I could think of. It's not. So, and that becomes a really big thing in the later Dragon Quest games, like 11 and 4, or I'm sorry, 5, and I think 6 has that a little bit or something. 9 has that, obviously. That's a big thing in 9, so yeah. A lot of enduring things that continue on from this game to later Dragon Quest games, and that's why I think it's a really cool and influential Dragon Quest game in its own right. And I just really like it for that. And I think it's just, I know I just keep saying it, but it's like, it's just a really solid Dragon Quest game. It's kind of refined to the perfection that this series is known for. It's really quality gameplay, quality dungeons, and quality... Obviously the music is fantastic. This is really where they start getting into some of these themes that stick around for some of the games, and even the ones that don't are just really, really impressive and very listenable, especially throughout the game there. And the characters have their own themes and whatnot a little bit throughout their journeys, so I think that's cool. I like all the music a lot. It's really... I think this is really where it starts to stand out. Not that it didn't stand out in the previous games, because the music is always fantastic in Dragon Quest games. Even 6, even the worst Dragon Quest game has good music. 6 does. Maybe not as much good music, but it still has good music, and that's nice. So, but yeah, like, it's just really, really solid for a Dragon Quest game. Of course, Kirsty's got to come in. Hi. Hello. Come here. You can sit on my lap. Here. Okay. Yeah. I just had a really good time playing it, because I haven't played Dragon Quest IV but the one time. I played a little bit of the like beginning levels and stuff again, like it's like 8-9 years ago, you know, when I was in college or whatever. It'd probably be about 8 years ago, yeah. So I remember that, but that was the last time I picked the game up was then. So it has definitely been a minute, and so it's one of those things I've always kind of wanted to go back to, is these DS versions, but I always kind of wanted to play the ones before leading up to it, kind of do a marathon like we're doing now, and this is finally a good purpose for doing that, so I can review all of these games and finally get that done. So, and I'm happy to finally be doing this, you know, finally reviewing all these games. I feel like Dragon Quest IV is one of those ones I just kind of wrote off, like, yeah, it's pretty alright, but, you know, there's always 5 and the better ones. And I still sort of feel like that, but I still feel like it's a really good and polished Dragon Quest game, and I really have found a new appreciation for it. I always talk about in terms of personal favorites. It's not one of my personal favorite Dragon Quest games that I have like a lot of memories and connection to, but you know, ones like 1 and 3 and 2 mean a lot to me. But even with all of that nostalgia built up, I think that I can say that definitively this game is probably better than the first game and the second game. The third game is questionable, because I still think that's a really good one. It probably is better than the third game. Personally, it would probably be the second best one to me if I'm being objective, but, you know, if I'm just going with my favorites, then it would probably be third best after it'd be called like 3-1, 4-2. But I do really enjoy it, and I do appreciate how good of a game it is and how polished it is. I don't really feel like it has that many shortcomings that I can think of. I think it's fair enough. There's not really a lot to complain about. No tiles that like reverse your movements or whatever, like, you know, like in number 3 there's not really a lot of annoying puzzles like that. There's one thing where you have to like push a statue aside to like get the sage stone or whatever. That was kind of like whatever, like glad I had the guide for that, but yeah, it's a good game to have the guide for, I would say. It's not totally necessary to have the guide for, though. I definitely used the guide far less than I did in the Dragon Quest III video. Dragon Quest III, I feel like it was kind of hard to remember where everything was on the overworld, but here, like, and you really need to know where shit is on the overworld in Dragon Quest III. But here, I didn't really need to do that as much. And plus, the zoom system finally lets you just go to any place that you want to go to. Which, I think they had that in Dragon Quest 3 as well, so I guess I can't really complain about that. But that's still a nice thing that they have going for it, is the zoom system still works really well. And it even leads you to, like, non-towns and just, like, little, you know, there's a lot of really helpful zoom points to where it makes it really not too hard to get back to where you have to be. A lot of times in Dragon Quest 3 you'd have to, like, sail around and stuff. But you don't have to do a whole lot of that in this game. There's a bit of that, but, like, you're always pretty conveniently close to where you need to go. So I like that. I think that's good and bad, because then also you don't feel like you're exploring as much like you do in the first few games there, which is maybe like the one downside. But I still feel like there's an adequate amount of exploring, but just not as much as the previous titles there. and I don't know if that's really that bad of a thing. The world is more condensed. It feels like you're never too far off from a town or like a major thing or like a dungeon or something. You're always really close to pretty much everything, and I think that little like bite-sized world approach there, where there's always stuff around you, is kind of why it doesn't really feel like you're exploring that much. But I also do like that, because it's just enough space in between to where you're still going to run into some enemies and fight some guys, but it's not like too far off as well. So it is kind of a nice balance, I guess, but it just kind of maybe takes away a little of that the older games explorative elements there. But it's not too bad. I don't think that's like a major negative or anything. So yeah, I really like this game. They have the morph rod in this game, which is pretty cool. So you'll get like morph into monsters and stuff. You have to do that on this one part to kind of like blend in with some monsters and like listen to the enemy's plan or whatever. So that's kind of cool. You can morph into like the bunny girl, or like you can all be kings, or just like, it's great. You could be like any of the controlled, like the non-player characters there, like the sprites for that, which is pretty neat. So yeah, I don't know, just fun stuff like that. It's just a charming kind of Dragon Quest. It has a lot of the Dragon Quest charm that the later games would expound upon. Just a lot of the stuff is cool. There's a lot of weapon variety, I think is neat. A lot of the designs for the weapons and stuff really stand out. It's kind of unfair, because I was playing Game Boy games before, and now we're playing DS games, and so the graphics and whatnot are a lot better, and it just stands out. The animations, they pop, it's so much more lively than the old games, and I think that's very good, and that's really a strength of the game as well. You kind of get a lot of that feeling that you would get for the later games, but at the same time, it doesn't feel like a totally modern game like I'm feeling like the remake of like Dragon Quest VII is gonna feel like. It still feels old school. It feels like a PS1 game. It feels like Dragon Quest VII with some like more like the original Dragon Quest VII with some more like bells and whistles to it kind of thing. So okay, so one thing I will say, one little thing that kind of bothered me was near the beginning of the game, we kind of have to talk to specific people to get certain things, certain events in play. So that was kind of where the story detracted from the game. You kind of had to do that in the old games, but you really didn't usually have to do that in the older games to progress the story. You would just basically sometimes have to talk to people, and it would usually be pretty obvious who it was you'd had to talk to. But a lot of times you could just stumble upon like a dungeon and you could get the item, and then like that would resolve whatever problem was wherever, I don't know, it's just, I felt it was more obvious. There was parts in this game where I got kind of stuck, like especially in the first chapters there with the characters, because it's like I didn't know who I was supposed to talk to or where I was supposed to go, this and that. So the game doesn't always hold your hand. I think that's good and bad in certain aspects. Or like I was trying to sit down as the monsters to like listen to the meeting, and it just wouldn't go, but all you have to do is like really press yourself against the table and then it'll start. It's just little things like that are kind of annoying. So if anything, that's like the one other minor criticism, is just like some of that little stuff is like kind of annoying, but it's not too bad. Yeah, so there's not much else to say about it. Overall, the game is really good. The characters are really solid, and the story, everything, the graphics and the animation, the gameplay, everything is just kind of an evolution to the series, and more towards the typical Dragon Quest game. And that kind of started here, would be a lot of those elements, a lot of that charm and whatnot started here. Things like the King Slime, started here, and a lot of the really awesome music, was an evolution to the older music, and all that kind of stuff. Everything is just a little bit better than the previous games, a little bit bigger and bolder and just more epic. But it all comes down to preference on which games you really like more. But I think it's a really great Dragon Quest game in the lineage of the other Dragon Quest games. I'm going to give it a solid 9.3 out of 10. So, yeah, really good Dragon Quest game. It's not perfect, and it's not one of the best games ever or anything, but it is an iconic thing. There's a lot of iconic elements from this game that would carry on to later games. So I think it's an important Dragon Quest game and an influential Dragon Quest game, I guess is what I'm trying to say there. It would go on to make the series better. And it's a much better Dragon Quest game than Final Fantasy IV is, so I don't know if I'm being too blasphemous by saying that, but I never really... I don't mind the early Final Fantasy games, but when you compare them to the early Dragon Quest games, they're so much better. I say Dragon Quest 1 is better than Final Fantasy 1. I'd say, obviously, Dragon Quest 2 is better than Final Fantasy 2. Nobody would disagree with that, I don't think. 3 is better than 3. Easy for Dragon Quest. And then Dragon Quest 4 is definitely better than than Final Fantasy 4. Dragon Quest 5 is definitely better than Final Fantasy 5, and so on and so forth, 6 is way better than 6. There's no contest there. 7 is where you can maybe argue for one or the other, and then 8, I don't think there's any argument there. 9, you could probably go towards Final Fantasy rather than Dragon Quest, etc., etc. Going on. Doesn't matter. We'll just see if Dragon Quest 13 is any good. It's got to be better than Final Fantasy 13, right? So, but anyway, I like just pretty much everything about the game. There's a little few minor flaws there that really don't detract too much from the experience. I think it's good though. I think it's really good, and it's definitely a worthy entry to the Dragon Quest series there. I like it a lot. There's nothing else to say about it, so this has been JZNES saying keep it classic. Stick around for more reviews on underrated games, and I'll see you guys in the next one. JZ out.